So we're going to go through some of the most meta goalkeepers in FC24. Starting off with a brand new one that, to be honest, I'm kind of just putting him in there just purely on size basis. One of the tallest keepers in the game currently, a winter wildcard in Alvaro, 6'8", which is just absolutely insane. Whether he is actually good is down for debate. I've kind of put him in here just purely on hype basis. So we'll carry on with the list and kind of go into the proper players that we have at least had a few games with. Pope, on the other hand, he's coming in at 6'6", so again, one of the taller keepers. I don't know if there's any 6'7" keepers actually. There probably is in lower standards, but in higher rating, I can imagine 6'6" is the same as Courtois as well. But Pope most definitely is more of a nostalgic keeper. I had a few games and I just keep getting him back. So naturally, he was one of the easy ones to pack from 2-minute group stage. We've managed to give him in a few times, but we've had a few games. And to be honest, when it comes to keepers, it is just down to your personal preference as well. Like, you could go through the whole list and everybody would have a different opinion. Every time I do any one of these, every 5-6 weeks, everybody has a different keeper. I've seen comments from players that have said they have sworn by Czech or Casillas or someone like an Edison. Literally, the next month, their next keeper is there. They've got in for Courtois, maybe not a Donnarumma this year, but you know what I mean. Everybody has got a new, better keeper every single time. Whereas I do think with Pope, he definitely is a good keeper. I wouldn't rank him at my top. He's kind of just there for an English keeper and obviously Newcastle Prem if you really wanted to. We have Mignan. I feel like Mignan definitely is deserving of an upgrade this year. We missed out on him massively last year, unfortunately, as Chesney did get the team of the season and he was kind of just left with that team of the year honourable, I want to say, and he definitely had the ability. I don't know what it is with him because 6'3" really isn't that tall for a keeper in my opinion when it comes to that being a big stat that seems to help keepers. There's definitely some correlation there, but when he does get them stat upgraded, I feel like he could be a nice one. He's kind of just been left in the dust at this moment in time. We then have Donnarumma, one of my favourites from the past few years. This year definitely been let out a little bit, I think, with him not necessarily getting into Team of the Year. I believe Alisson is favourites at the moment and not necessarily going to get any informs as of yet. We probably could see one at Team of the Season. I don't personally know how good PSG are actually doing. If there is another keeper, I know we got Sambar, I want to say, last year. So unfortunately, he might be left in the dust as well. Potentially, at the very minimum, we could see a footies. We have got the Euros as well, so that could bring some different cards if they are going to bring like the trio cards back. So where they had 3 different of the same nation as an SBC. I know they technically did them for the minor countries like Sweden, Denmark, who don't necessarily get the love that the major leagues or the major countries technically do. Edison, one of my favourites. Again, to be honest, it kind of says it all. 6'2", so there is correlation, but in terms of some keepers, they just have it. Edison, for me, has always been a fantastic starter keeper. Himself and Edison definitely have been neck and neck in the Prem for quite some time, and I do think this year he still is a very, very solid keeper. The only problem that you get with keepers nowadays is we don't get many upgrades for them. They tend to try and bring up the Trap, the Pope, the kind of Alvaro, the random keepers where nobody's kind of playing with their previous version, and they try and catch them up to Edison, Alisson, Courtois, Donnarumma, and unfortunately they do kind of go to the sideline unless they play a magnificent game. Then we have Dudek, one that I've changed my opinion on this year. Campos, not a chance, but Dudek definitely a much, much better card. We managed to get him on the second account, and he's actually been playing really well. We've kind of upgraded from Donnarumma. What's it called? The dynamic is absolutely sick. Love the Doc Arc. I think that is just a very cool dynamic that they could have gone for a keeper. I don't think there's better. And in terms of the keeper himself, I wasn't a fan last year. The only thing that I don't like is he has no playstyles whatsoever. I know we haven't had any playstyle pluses yet, but not one single one is a little bit frustrating, as they definitely help that little bit more when it comes to a keeper. Alisson, one rated higher than Edison this year, 6'4" as well, does have every playstyle bar from the footwork, which again we can kind of go with. The throw far or far throw is quite good. Cross claimer I'm a big fan of, and also rush out I'm a big fan of, because naturally they make the opponent almost not even panic, because the best players are not panicking. If your keeper's running at you, they know exactly what they're doing. But when it comes to the medium sort of level, if you're kind of grinding through rivals, naturally you will find some people will try and take that 50-50, and it's gone from rather being a one-on-one where they predominantly could get round you to making it a 50-50 where if they get past you, they were going to score anyway. If they don't, you've managed to save a goal. So Alisson definitely does that really well. I do like his throw. Kick-wise is absolutely shocking. Naturally, we kind of see that with the difference between, Edison, where is he gone? Edison obviously having the 91, and that was the difference. Alisson was the far thrower, whereas Edison is more of the kicker. As we saw it, ter Stegen's in form, one of the only keepers to really get one at a high rated. He technically is the second highest rated player, as naturally everybody above him is going to be icons. And I do think ter Stegen's got a bit about him, does have most of the playstyles bar from far throw, but does have the footwork instead, and still again has a lot better kicking than somebody like Alisson. And I think if you are going for ter Stegen, if your team's looking like this, then I have the place for you. Head over to U7Buy for all your coin needs. They're cheap, fast and reliable, but make sure to use JT11 at the checkout for 6% off all of your coin orders. Again, decent, but I think you'd probably only go for him for the status of having a special goalkeeper. I don't think he personally beats out Courtois, who is my keeper at the moment, and he is absolutely phenomenal. To me, the golds always go to Courtois, especially even last year and the year before. You could have argued Donnarumma, and definitely once we got into the team of the year you did, but most definitely in gold terms, Courtois normally comes out on top. He doesn't quite have the kicking, which again, it's frustrating at times, but realistically this game is all about passing anyway, so you kind of get away with just going with the throw in full stop. Doesn't again have the rush out, which I kind of deal with. Cross claimer is definitely a very important one in my opinion. He does have technically the far throw, which does work and naturally will give him that outreach, but he's 6'6" and he's absolutely magnificent in net. We then move on to some of the icons. We have Van Nistelrooy, who personally for me, he's so hit and miss. I really can't make my mind up with him. He kind of reminds me, not quite like Tapsoba was absolutely unreal. And he does have an element of kind of the Walker side of it, but not as bad. Walker was horrific in net last year. Whereas Van Nistelrooy definitely isn't awful to the point where I'm like, you just wouldn't be able to use him. But I definitely think if you already have a goalkeeper, I wouldn't necessarily, especially if he's an icon. If he's an icon, you're definitely not getting rid of him. But if you've not got, say you've got Courtois, I would be very hesitant unless it was just purely link basis that I'd put Van Nistelrooy over him. He's one of them ones I physically just cannot get a solid, consistent, either bad run or good run. It's kind of in the middle if I'm being brutal. Then we have Cech, one player that I absolutely hated last year. He just was woeful on every version, bar from maybe the final form, which is fair enough because it'll be the highest rated. And realistically, I'm not expecting to save everything when team of the season Mbappe, Haaland, De Bruyne is coming at you. Naturally, you're just always going to either save it or not. It's going to be a lot more of the kind of not. So keepers just are in net really then. It's just who outscores who. Whereas this year I definitely think they've upgraded him that little bit more when it comes to his 88. He feels a lot more balanced than what we saw from the base and mid. Them two base and mids for Cech was absolutely horrendous. So it's nice to see him slightly back in form where I do think he now needs a big upgrade. We have got Schmeichel as one of the SBCs. A lot of people absolutely love Schmeichel, and I think over the years he's always been a solid keeper. He's never been in contention for number one in my opinion, but he definitely was always one of them ones as an icon, always gives you the links, which is perfect, but he just gives you a consistent amount of gameplay. We have got, obviously, all of the playstyles rather than the rush out, which is fair enough. And then we do have ourselves some decent stats throughout. I always thought, especially in previous FIFAs, that speed was a big thing. But as you can see from all of these goalkeepers, speed isn't really a consistent variable here. Otherwise, Edison would be the best, Dudek would be one of the best, and when we look at Courtois, he shouldn't be. So speed was always one of them ones, unfortunately, that I could never make the full correlation with. It just seemed to be so random, and once we got the Team of the Year goalkeeper, naturally that had like 70, 80 speed, which again, it still doesn't correlate massively. But when it comes to the Team of the Year, tends to be that easiest one to pack, necessarily, whether you call it easy or not, but normally everybody has that team of the year by second week of team of the year quite easily, and especially with 2 team of the years coming out this year, it will be interesting to see who is the women's. If it's Earps, then that will be an interesting debate. Who's better, the men's team of the year or the women's? But Schmeichel, always a good choice. I feel like a lot of pros have chosen from that draft tournament that they had, and most definitely has put him into a bit more of a spotlight. We then have Casillas, always a fantastic one, very much an icon goalkeeper, a lovely upgrade to his 92 as well. We've got a decent amount of stats, like realistically, there's not much better than them stats right there. We have every single playstyle, which again, is always going to be a bonus, and I will be interested to see who gets the first playstyle plus. There's bound to be one, and I guarantee it's going to be broken, so we'll be interested to see that at some point. In terms of stats, you can't be better than him. I feel like he's definitely one of the topper keepers and is a relatively decent price. I don't think he's actually terrible on price, because I know we've got the top 2 already to come that are a good amount more, but when it comes to Casillas, he's currently coming in 465, which actually is quite expensive for a keeper still, but definitely worth every penny. We then have Yashin, again another huge price on him. I know he's the second most expensive keeper, technically does have his centre-back version as well, which you'd argue with. If you've already got the centre-back, you're not going to pick the goalkeeper naturally. He has got his hat on, which does add the value by at least 100k, and he's currently coming in just shy of 600,000. When we've got playstyles, technically he should be the worst. Stat-wise, doesn't look... To be honest, kicking's dead, handling's decent, diving, reflex, positioning, obviously always good. Speed's there as well, but just the cross-claimer, which, to be honest, is probably my most important one. The far throw I can get away with. Goalkeeper with a feet I can get away with. And rush out, you can still bring him out naturally, which is always good. You've just got to anticipate it better. As long as they've got that cross-claimer, I'm happy. And I do think with Yashin, it comes in the highest rated goalkeeper currently. I don't know, in fact, is he? I'm pretty sure he is, but I can't remember what. Yeah, of course he is. I didn't think he was 92 as well, but we've got Yashin as the most rated goalkeeper at the moment. And finally, my favourite is always going to be Armand van der Sar. He is phenomenal. The most expensive keeper, he now has a 90. The 88 is still very viable as an option, and it's currently coming in at 350, which is a much better price. But Van der Sar's always been a fan favourite of mine. All the playstyles bar from rush out, and I think just naturally in net, he has just been the best goalkeeper we've had. It is down to preference, and I think you could literally go down to this whole list, and to be honest, other than maybe from here, I'd say these 4, you could argue whether you just don't want them in there. But I'd say from Edison, you probably could have every single goalkeeper here and still be pretty fine with your choice. Obviously, icons come in with the full chem, so does Dudek, so that could be an advantage over a lot of these goalkeepers. And naturally, when it comes to Team of the Year, it tends to be a better card than anyway. So it will be interesting to see if an icon goalkeeper gets Team of the Year, as I believe that has been leaked. More than likely, we are seeing potentially a Yashin. That could be... Well, actually, no, he's got a centre-back. So more than likely, we're seeing Schmeichel or Cech. That would be very interesting. I don't know if any of them have got Team of the Year, but they've definitely played at a level where they should have got a Team of the Year. But that's going to be my list. Let me know down below your goalkeeper. Make sure you do like and subscribe. Catch you all for the next one. Peace.